welcome to this edition of the Hoel Roofing and Remodeling Podcast. Today, got a special guest from Gillman's Home Center, and today we got Joel here. He is the general manager up at the Newcastle store. So welcome, Joel, and just take a minute and introduce yourself, your family, and a little story of how you ended up at Gillman's.
Sure. My name is Joel FoxDoan. I'm the general manager of the Gillman Home Center there in Newcastle. I've got an extensive experience, been in management for many years. I was actually working for Lowe's prior to coming over to Gillman's. I had just moved into Newcastle. My wife and I, we got married, and we moved into her family home, and we were installing a ceiling fan in the bedroom. And as I was pulling stuff down, I saw a few things that her dad had rigged up back in the day, and I wanted to fix it. And it came to the point where I was like, well, I can't fix this tonight unless we go out and get something. And she said, well, let's go get something. I said, well, I'm not going all the way to Lowe's. And so we were driving into town, and she was telling me about the places that were in town because I was new to Newcastle at the time. And so I was on my way to Ace Hardware, and as we were going past Gillman, she says, that's the other place that I was talking about. I had never heard of Gillman's before, but I was like, well, I don't care where we go. I just need to get the part. And so I pulled on in, and when I got inside, I was impressed by how organized the place was and how clean it was. And one of the employees came up and asked me, if I needed help. Told him what I needed. Told me exactly where it was. We were in and out. But I went home that night as I was, working out in Indianapolis and living in Newcastle, and saw that they were hiring for an assistant manager at the time. And after we finished putting up that ceiling fan, I applied for the job. And the general manager at the time called me the next morning and called me in, and Curtis Gillman came in and interviewed me and gave me a job offer on the spot, and I started a couple weeks later. But I've loved it.
So Curtis Gillman, is he the owner?
Curtis Gillman is currently our chief operations officer.
Okay.
Our current CEO or owner is Charlie, his dad.
Okay.
The Gillman Brothers Lumber was started in the 60s by Charlie and his brothers.
Okay.
Charlie had like a construction company. They were building new homes, and part of the idea of starting the lumberyard was so they could get better pricing on their own lumber, and for their friends and stuff in the business. Charlie grew up in the business, and he rebranded it as more of a retail establishment as Gillman Home Center, and opened up the first Gillman Home Center in '85 in Batesville.
Okay.
Charlie's sons, Curtis and Travis, both worked their way up through the company. They, were stock boys, and they were managers. And right now, Curtis is our COO, and he's doing a great job. Travis is in charge of purchasing.
Okay.
But it's a good family-owned company. Newcastle location was opened in 2015.
Okay.
I've been the GM for a little over a year now. After I started as assistant manager about 3 years ago, a couple of years, our GM stepped down, and he's working in outside sales, so he works for me now.
There you
go. Since we opened the Newcastle location in 2015, we've opened 8 more stores. So
wow.
We're 16 strong. We just opened one in Muncie and one in Shelbyville last year.
What is the future plans? Are they going to continue to add more? Do they have them locations kind of planned out?
What they tell me, is we don't have any plans to open up anything this year. But every time they say that, they say, however, if the right location comes up with the right circumstances, there's no reason why I wouldn't.
So so are they considered a Do It Best franchise? Is that how that works?
Yeah, Do It Best. It's I don't know what the word is that they use, but it's not really a franchise.
Okay.
It's a cooperation.
Okay.
We are one of the biggest on Do It Best. I think there's another company out there that might have a little bit more locations, but okay. I think we beat them in volume. I don't have those numbers, but I know that we're one of the biggest do it best company.
Okay.
They were a really great partnership.
Nice. Well, and like we were talking off air, like a lot of your guys' locations is kind of our main areas that we service. If it's, out in Centerville, Richmond, I didn't realize until you brought in the list of all of them how far north you were, but still overall, we do a lot of work in Batesville, a lot of work in Shelbyville, and clear over to the state line, even getting over towards Oxford, Ohio now, just organically, like I was explaining to you off air, just our goal as a business of, where we want to generate our business from. So totally get the Adam was bragging behind the cameras here, like the quick service we get when we swing in there and grab something with you guys. And then since our office manager has a connection there, now we've got account, so we can walk into any of your branches and charge something and just get on to the day. So once again, that makes us more efficient. We have happy customers, all that kind of stuff. So I guess you've been a manager for a little over a year. Me and you were talking off air a little bit about just managing people, and I mean, our job is to love people at the end of the day,
right,
and love our people, so then they will love our customers. So share some of that.
Well, my personal philosophy, there's usually, when you run into business, there's usually like 3 different entities that you're trying to serve, and that's the company, or the bottom line, your employees, and your customers. Personally, I believe that if you take care of your employees, they will take care of your customers. You've trained them properly, and you make sure that they're well taken care of. They will take care of your customers, and if we're taking care of our customers, then that will backfill and take care of the bottom line. And that's one of the things that I really love about Gillman's. I've worked with a lot of companies in the past, and everybody says, our employees are our priority. But with Gillman's, it really is. I mean, they do take care of us when there were gas prices issues and things like that. Charlie sent all the employees, gas cards,
right,
to help us out.
Yep.
He throws Christmas parties for the staff, and he's always walking around handing out gift cards or $100 bills for people that answer the questions properly, and he really kind of looks at what's going on in the outside world and notices what we need,
right,
and he really takes care of us.
So, are they located? Do they live down by Batesville then?
Yeah, Charlie's got a house in Batesville.
Okay.
Most of the employees have been there.
Yeah. So, I guess tell them, that's awesome. That's always awesome to hear, like, how they're taking care of you guys, because, like, I remember before I owned my own company, back when one of the gas spikes, happened, like the company I was working for, and I was just an operation and maintenance tech. I was just kind of low man on the totem pole, and on one of the checks there was $100 or two $100 bills in there with a note that's like, the cost of stuff is going up. We noticed that, so that absolutely, that means a lot. And here I'm telling a story probably 10, 11 years later. So
yeah, no, you remember that.
Yeah,
it sticks with you.
I remember that kind of stuff. So just let's talk about, are you guys finally over the everybody blaming COVID on why we can't get anything or not?
I mean, it's we definitely hear it. We still, people are still talking about it. I mean, there were times when, and we were honest with our customers, but there were times during COVID that, we were getting lumber trucks in and we weren't sure how much we were going to pay for it until it was there, but we needed it. And then even after that, as the prices started to fluctuate and the price of that stuff started to come down, and we were still sitting on inventory that we paid a high dollar for, we had to be competitive, and we had to give the right prices to our customers. So there's oftentimes when the prices were going down, but we still had some of that inventory, we just had to give it away pretty much. But you've got to take care of your customers right.
Well, and that's like us we do a lot of OSB replacement. Mm-hmm. I mean, freaking OSB price, like the average customer don't realize the yo-yo that it is.
Oh, yeah.
It
depends on where you can get it from. I mean, there was a time when OSB was so high, people were coming in, and I had a bunk of like oak plywood
Right.
that I had. You know, we don't sell that many.
Yeah.
So I had been there since before COVID. So I was like, it was literally cheaper,
Right,
because of the cost of it.
Well, and I don't know if you guys deal much with steel framing, but there for a while they said that steel studs were cheaper than from the wood studs. And I actually did a job for a guy up in Zionsville. It's been a few years ago now, and he was a day trader. So he was watching stuff. He's like, "Hey, we're gonna move forward with this," but he's like, "Per my analytics, like stuff's gonna get a little cheaper in like 4.5 weeks." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." So every once in a while, I still shoot him a text like, "Hey, I'm thinking about buying a bunch of material. What do you think?" And he'll be like, "Yeah, buy it. Yeah, it hasn't really changed much," or So
and we get that too. I mean, I'll I've got a few Kyle and Travis and them are in charge of purchasing, and I'll know that I'm running short or low on something like wire, and I'll call and say, "Hey, I need some," and they're like, "Well, shouldn't buy it yet." Right. But you need some, so let's get a few, and then so that we can take advantage of the better costs that are on the horizon.
So with the do it best kind of model, is it more like does everything come through a two-stepper, or do you buy directly from some manufacturers?
I do buy directly from a lot.
Okay.
I've got we have several lumber reps.
Okay.
Several different places we can get inventory from. All of our, almost all of our hardware store, all my nuts and bolts and all my screwdrivers and everything, primarily do it best. There are a few other vendors. I mean, we are. Not all of our stores, but many of our stores are like Steel Power Tool, service centers and representatives. We sell Country Clipper, lawnmowers, and so a lot of that stuff, of course, that doesn't come from Do It Best.
Right.
A majority of our stores are rental centers as well.
Yep.
You can rent anything from a Mini X to a skid steer to just a power drill.
Right. What on them kind of, I don't want to say odd stuff, that them unique stuff, like what do you guys see the biggest demand, like if you're looking for a new location like to place, and I know you said that there's not anything on the plan, but as entrepreneurs they're always looking. I think what is kind of your biggest drivers for some of that?
It's a need. If Charlie sees a community that has a hole that we think we can fill, I mean, that's where he goes. He's looking for a need. It's not so much, where can we fit or where can we be competitive or where, do we think we can make the money? It's all about a community that's in need. And if you find a location where a need can be filled, I mean, then the business will come to you. I mean,
right.
It's got a community in need. I mean, when we opened up that location in Muncie and then that other one in Shelbyville, I knew that some of my customers came from those areas. I mean,
right.
Being in Newcastle, I knew that those were going to take some of my sales a little bit, but those were people that were driving all the way from those areas to come to me. So, it was easy to find those locations, find a community that had a need.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I was shocked when I seen the Shelbyville one going up. I don't know. I figured they had enough, but I mean, like you said, like the location you guys got is probably the primest location that you guys can get. Another thing, do you guys normally always build a complete new facility, or do you ever go in and remodel it? Any kind of existing? I
think I believe the plan going forward is to try and do our own builds. But yes, there are several locations which was a hardware store or a rental center in the past, and we do have several locations that are retrofit buildings. My location is one of the first ones that were like a single build. Yep. And then each one after that, the shell's kind of the same on all of the new buildings. Everyone after me, they realized what they did wrong, and they made them better as they're going forward. So I still have all of the mistakes they made with that building, but we do well.
So what kind of mistakes did they make on your building?
All the other stores have these two piers that go all the way down the center or on the side. Mine's right in the middle. Yeah. Offices are in the back of the new stores, where my offices are up in the front, which is nice.
Right.
Except it takes away a whole bunch of sales floor space that I could have had. Those aisles are a little shorter. Little things here and there that they've tweaked. So some of the new locations, same footprint, but man, they look bigger, they look brighter.
Right. Well, and kudos to management to be willing to be like, okay, what can we tweak?
Right.
Because sometimes as entrepreneurs, we get like, no, we're doing it this way because that's the way we did that one there. And I mean, I know you probably enjoy, telling the other general managers, hey, you should thank me because we custom discussed this, so this is how this got to be different. So, and
that's what I like about the company too is we put our minds together. They asked for best practice. They asked for everybody's opinions. What is working well for you, and then we share that with the rest of the stores. This is working well for us, and it's like, oh, I never thought to do it that way. Thanks. Now I'm going to do it that way.
So, is there any area of the business that you guys maybe see more success with, the rentals, something like that, than maybe you even thought when you came to a Gillman's? Because, I mean, I know a lot of Lowe's stuff is similar, but I did notice with the Lowe's, they used to have some Sunbelt stuff, and then now they a lot of them don't even have Sunbelt, so they don't even really have, a rental facility in them. So
what's great with rental is, if you find items that people need, need to rent, not to have, but just need, and you get that in your fleet, and you take care of it, then if it's run properly, it makes its money back on what you spent on it. And then after that, except for maintenance, it's just bringing money in.
Right.
What we like to do is after an item has made its money and then a little bit more. We like to sell it. We got people that'll buy the used equipment and we get a new one in, and then go from there. I mean, as long as you're maintaining it properly and utilizing the rental system properly, it's a good money maker.
Well, it's funny you say that because I've looked at, they call them the piggybacks. Is that what they? And I've seen a couple of them listed from you guys. I've always thought about buying one for the shop. We've got a fork truck, and I've kind of custom discussed, like, the wheels are real wide, and it's beneficial, I know, to get off a truck. But then I start questioning close around the shop, it may not be as good an idea. But I have noticed maybe Travis, was he the one that would have had them?
Travis would have done that, yeah.
Okay, I remember weird things, and I've just seen it I've looked at them before on Facebook Marketplace. Like, okay,
no, we need them. We need them,
right?
With our delivery and stuff. We do part of that. I think part of what we do well for our customers is anything within a 20-mile radius. It's a $20 delivery fee.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it's 3 truckloads of stuff or if it's a screwdriver. It's $20 delivery fee. Anything within a 20-mile radius. After that, we'll still come and just be a little bit more. But we don't make any money on that. It's just part of of the services that we offer. I always find people. I don't know what they are now, but I know that a couple of years ago, Lowe's was like $60 or whatever.
Right.
And you can't. And you couldn't even try to work you into a schedule like next Wednesday, maybe.
Right.
No, we'll give you a call right before we come out, and we'll put it where you want us to. And I've got a couple of I got a good delivery team that works for me. I know that most of the stores have a pretty good one, and those guys care. They work for us and they care. With some of those big boxes, like especially with Lowe's, the delivery team doesn't work for Lowe's. They're delivering appliances, and they don't. As a manager, when I worked there, if I had a customer that had a complaint, they didn't. The delivery guys didn't care.
It's funny because you'd say that. It just had a delivery from Lowe's, and the lady called, and he wasn't even hardly gone. And she's like, "Yeah, I heard he dropped something this morning, and I'm just looking for if the if what he's dropping is damaged, that's not his fault. Like, how was your experience with him? And I was just like, and we ordered, I think, the same bathroom vanity 3 or 4 times for a project, and it was very. To the first time we went and picked it up, or they delivered it and it was damaged, and then so I told the guys, I'm like, and then I don't think we checked it. It was my fault actually. I think they dropped it here at the shop. The next week, I was like, you know what? Let's look at that, make sure it's fine. It was damaged. And then from then on, I'm like, you don't sign off unless you open that box up, guys.
That's
and
right.
Literally, there's 3 or 4 of them that came in damaged, and it's like care. Like, and there's sometimes that, like, I'll call a place and, like, the customer service is 0, and I'll tell my team, I was like, I swear, if I ever hear you talk to our customers like that, like, you don't have a job. Like, I'm like, don't be like that. Like, care. Like, and unfortunately, in this world, like, we're to the point that it's just like people don't call back, or they don't even act like they care for your business, you know. So a simple thank you, or hey, can we help you? And I mean, you guys are always good at that. Usually I've got my mindset, I'm running to where I need to grab, because most of the time I know exactly what I need to grab and where it's at, but still just that customer service. So, and one thing that you were talking about was more collaboration between the stores, best practices, kind of all that stuff. So, you know, share a little bit about like what you guys are doing to kind of have more systems and processes. I'm working on that in our business to make sure things are more. I tell my team, I don't want a McDonald's. I don't want you to make a Big Mac in that metaphor, but like every sales rep that goes out, I need him to be the same experience.
No, we what we're doing right now is as a company trying to build our SOPs, our standard operating procedures, and so we started with certain things like that everybody has to do. So, and everybody's obviously doing it, but if you go to different stores, that, you know, we were talking about just truck maintenance and checking out our delivery trucks and things like that. And so we went through and everybody shared what they were doing, more of like a collective. It was like on a conference call type thing. And then one of our, we've got a few multi-store operating managers that kind of went through and created a standard operating procedure that would work for everybody. Put it in front of a few of us so that we all kind of, okay, that'll work. And then, so it's something that we're doing slowly. A few things here. We started with something like checking out trucks. Right now, we're changing the way that we do our orders for our Do It Best trucks.
Okay.
And our procedures for how to do it. We all do it. Each one of us do it, but we've never had a set step-by-step instruction on how. And at the end of it, not only will we have like best practices shared, I've learned, I thought that I knew everything on how to do the order, but since we've been sharing it, I learned that there was a few things that on just how the system worked that I didn't know that made things a little bit easier. And so now at the end of it, then we should have like something that I probably set in a binder that I may not use again after I've got the steps down, but if I'm on vacation or I'm out sick or something like that, one of my assistant managers needs to do the order, it's not something he usually does, should be able to grab the binder and go step by step and knock it out, no problem. Or if I'm training somebody new, I can say, hey, we're going to go through these steps.
Yep.
And it should be a lot. What I found most beneficial is the sharing best practices. Everybody's doing it. We've all learned a few things that we didn't know we could do that is making our life a little bit easier. And then I've shared stuff with other people that they didn't know that they could do, and it's making their life a little bit easier. And at the end of it, we're going to have a standard procedure that works for the company. Yep. And it's on paper.
Right. Now, literally, my sales guys are doing that right now as we're talking. Probably hearing some of them in the background because they're kind of loud. Sales guys are known for that. But what kind of is you want to grow within Gillman's? You want to be the general manager until you're ready to retire in Newcastle, or kind of what are your goals?
Well, I do love my position and I love my store, and I wouldn't mind retiring as a general manager. But the company's growing, and I've always been ambitious.
Yep.
I've spoken a little bit here and there with some of the higher ups about the idea that as the company grows and as we grow our corporate structure, that it'd be nice to kind of be one of those multi-store managers or see where the company goes. I'm really excited about being in a company that is on a growth trend, mm-hmm. and is changing as they grow. And I think that was one of the things that really attracted me to besides how great they are with the employees and how organized it was, is just that there's some potential for growth. And I don't know where I'm going to be in the next 5 years, but I know that it's going to be with Gillman's. So
what's some of your hobbies? What do you like doing, outside of work?
My wife and I like to travel. She works from home. She's a full-time nurse, but she went to the dark side. She works for the insurance companies. But it allows us to travel even if she can't get off work. We try to go to at least a couple weekends a year where there's the two of us get away, and then we try to take the kids on a vacation. I didn't share this with you, but between my wife and I, we have currently 7 children in the house.
Okay.
Not more than exactly 12 people call me dad.
Okay.
I have a few children out of the house. Got 2 kids in college right now, one in the Air Force. A few out in the world. We got a senior and a junior.
No wonder you like getting away on vacation.
But we try to take them all out once a year at least, and then the two of us like to get out. So we like to travel. We also just like to binge watch things. We're both kind of into sci-fi, things like that.
Does your wife watch them weird murder shows?
Not as much.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, it's to the point with 48 Hours, I know what's going to happen. And I'm like, this is bad. Like, me and my wife were in Nashville last weekend for a conference, and I'm like, can we change this? I know the ending of this one already.
Yeah, they have that formula. You kind of know.
Well, then I get to the point, I'm like, all right, I don't have the patience to watch it. Let me grab my phone. And you Google it, and then of course, since it's on, like, it's kind of the top of the search, and it's like, told you he was guilty. Told you they'd find him not guilty. And I always tease my wife that on them, it's so obvious when they're guilty. Like, the husband never goes and looks for her. And it's reverse psychology by the cops. Stay here in case she comes back.
Sure.
And then, like, when the idiot moves his girlfriend in 3 days later, it's like, come on, dude. Like, seriously, so. But, yeah. What, I had a question. Oh, how many employees does Gillman's have? Do you know that?
I'd say it's upward over 400.
Okay.
I think I've got 36 right now.
Okay.
At my location, some of the locations aren't as busy. Some of them are. Batesville has a lot more than most, but I think we're around 400 now.
Okay, because I was surprised just by, and I love studying business, asking questions. We had a young man in here that owns several of the Culvers, and I think I talked to him the other day. I think he needed 80 to open the Greensburg store. Now I get it, Culvers is different than Gillman's, but I was like, holy cow. And they've got 31 stores now. So, that's 2,500. And there's more turnover with the younger kids and stuff, Yeah,
I used to run restaurants. When you do a store opening with a restaurant specifically, especially with, getting all those high school age kids and whatnot, you target hiring, at least 30-40% more than you actually need.
Right.
And then go forward. I've been to that place where we hired that many, but for some reason the hiring process was really good, and so and so you've got more people than you need, and as you're going forward, it's actually a lot easier to when half of them wash out.
Yeah. Well, and it's just, I mean, I try to, like, one thing that we try to really focus on is like the customer experience. Mm-hmm. So I'm very conscious when I go into like a Culver's, because there's hardly anybody watching that would disagree. Like, if you go into a Culver's or a Chick-fil-A, the service is just so much better than any McDonald's, the Burger Kings, whatever, you know.
There's staff members everywhere.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, and they just, you know, it's no different than, like, we've been going to Holiday World for, when am I, 30? I'll be 37 here in a few months. So literally probably for 32 years. And this, like, how clean, and just everybody picks up trash. And it's like, to the point that, like, you don't ever see trash on the ground. Like, you know, and I know that, like, Kings Island's gotten better at stuff like that. But 20, 30 years ago, like, you just, that was a selling point for Holiday World, was like the cleanness, you know, the customer experience. And like, you know, people know they're probably going to pay a few more dollars when they walk into a Gillman's than a Lowe's. But however, like, when somebody smiles at you, can I help you? And it's actually right back there. You know, I was a plumber for 32 years, and this is my, you know, this is what I want to do, you know, kind of when I retire, kind of thing. So,
that customer experience is important to us. As I'm doing the scheduling, I make sure that I've got somebody in the building at all times that can do our basic services. So we fill propane, we cut keys, we fix screens, you know, we make paint, and it's a skill set. And so everybody. My goal is to get everybody trained on everything. Right. But until then, I don't want, you know, as I'm making a schedule, you know, it's a Wednesday night and I've got such and such people on the schedule. Can they fill propane, make keys, do, you know, anything that we can do? Can it be done? And so I make sure as I'm making the schedule that we're always able to fulfill all those things. And on the staff, I've got a lot of experts. You know, I'm not an expert on plumbing, but I have several of them, and every time a customer comes in and says, you know, a lot of times they're holding some piece of plumbing in their hand and they're like, I don't know what to do with this, and I look at it and I say, I don't know either, but I know who does, and I'll go grab, you know, John or Mason or Monty. I've got several that are, you know, that were either plumbers or have a lot of experience, and they'll come over, and I encourage all of my staff to do this. I stay. And I watch them help, so that I can hopefully next time that somebody comes in with the same problem, then at that point, you know, I can. And so I encourage all of my staff members to, if they don't know how to do it, somebody in this building does. I guarantee it. But as they're teaching the customer, you can learn yourself.
You know, now that you say that, I can think back of a few times that I thought, man, why are they standing there? So it's working.
It's because we don't know.
Yeah. And it may not have been your specific location, because that's the thing. Like, whenever I'm in a Gillman's, I don't ever go into the same one twice very often. You know, it's you never know where we're going to pop up at, and, you know, that kind of stuff. So is there anything else, a word of advice, you know, a fun story to share about Gillman's or anything like that?
You got to stay involved in the community. You know, all of our Gillman's, we are still a privately owned company, and we're based out of our communities. You got to take care of your community so that they'll come in. We work with Habitat for Humanity. I do a lot of donations that way with materials, and we've even gone to a few, you know, and helped rewire some electrical and things like that. We just built a handicap ramp for somebody that was in need. I've got a Mason. He's my plumbing department head, but he also helps me with my Facebook page and whatnot. Curtis Gillman, when it snowed and it was all icy, like when that first ice, he said, hey, if you guys have broken bags of salt, throw them in a bucket and go out to some of the local, you know, independent, you know, local businesses, tell them that we appreciate local businesses, and, you know, give out that salt. And so we did. Mason grabbed about 10 buckets, filled them with salt, and went to some of the local restaurants and some of the local boutiques and stuff. And all of them almost put on their Facebook page, "Oh my God, Gillman's came out to us." And it was good to give back, and it was nice to share that. We shared their posts on our Facebook page, and they shared us on their Facebook page. And being involved in the community really helps us, stick, in everybody's minds. But it makes us feel good to be able to help out.
Well, and I'll chime in. Like, if there's ever a time that we can help out, like, absolutely. We just had a small business that does bin trash removal, and I reached out. He reached out to me. It's like, "Hey, if I can ever be of a service," I was like, "No, absolutely, I appreciate that. Let's do a podcast." And it's already worked out. We've done one little project together, and like, I love small business. Like, I love talking. Like, I love learning. Like, my mind goes that I need to meet with the Gillmans sometime and just learn from them, because they're doing something right. If you have 16 locations, and I love that, you take care of your people, be involved in the community, and it's just like exactly like our focus. And I say it, and there's a lot of lip service, but I genuinely mean it. When there's, somebody sick or whatever it is, like, communicate with me. When the weather's real cold, like one time last year when it got real cold, like, I told Ellie, I was like, "Stay home." I was like, "You got your phone, answer it." I was like, "Don't get them babies out in this, 0-degree weather. Like, you come into the office, yes, I want to see you every day, but it's not, that's not worth it." And, unfortunately, she lost her dad a little over a year ago. And I was just like, "What do you need?" And she's like, "Can I have this week off?" And I was like, "Yes." Yeah. Like, just, we love you. I tease her. She took 3 months off to have this last baby starting in August. And that's like the race to the finish line for us. It's like
busy season.
Yeah. And I was just like, and there was multiple times I so bad wanted to call her and be like, "Hey, would you come back?" But I wouldn't do it, because I knew if I asked, she probably would.
Right.
That wasn't fair to her. And I told her, I was like, that baby is way more important than the business. Like, I want you to care about our business, so, but yeah, so like I said, anytime that we can ever team up, help, be a part of something, we have tons of labor. Like, if you hear something on like a roof or something, we can go do that. We did like a big give back for the Indiana FFA last year, put gutters on, down at their, retreat center area. I took the entire team and we ripped off and put back 2,500 linear feet of downspouts and gutters in one day.
Nice. Yeah.
So we got the FFA officer team involved, and one of our subs, him and his helper, came because we did the easy part, and he bossed us around and gave us the pointers. So yeah, absolutely. But anything else to add?
I wanted to mention our online platform.
Okay.
I think that that C word, that COVID, really kind of inspired a lot of the changes in this, but it's really starting to blow up in the company.
Okay.
The buy online, pick up in store. If you go to mygillman.com, you can see what is available. And what's nice about the platform is that it'll show what we've got in store, but it'll also show what our warehouses have. So I have customers all the time that are getting online and ordering whatever that they need, and I'll get an email saying customer ordered this from the warehouse, and then I'll know to look for it. And when it comes in, I'll be able to contact the customer and say that it's there. And we even still have a few people just a few customers that want us to bring it out to their cars.
Right.
And since we were doing that before, there's no reason why we can't still come out and deliver it and put it in your trunk for you. And
yeah, absolutely, customer service.
It's neat that something like that was a necessity. During the pandemic, is something that we were able to keep and roll with and make better, to be able to take care of our customers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Joel, I appreciate your time. And when we tag this, we're going to set where all the locations are at, but I'm going to let you read through where you guys have all the locations, just so our customer base knows where, they may know where their nearest Gillman's is, they may not.
Yep, you can always go to mygillman.com or gillmanhomecenter.com. That'll get you to both places, and you can see where to order from and see which each location what they have in the rental centers and things like that. But I think we're in Aurora, Batesville, Brookville, Centerville, Connorsville, Edinburgh, Frankfort, Gas City, Hartford City, Lebanon, Muncie, Newcastle, Shelbyville, and Winchester, all in Indiana. And then we're in Oxford, Ohio, and Eaton, Ohio. So those are our 16 locations. Like I said, Newcastle is where I'd like for everybody to shop. We're centrally located between all those stores, but we've got some great locations out there.
All right, I appreciate you, Joel, and we appreciate you tuning in to the Whole Roofing and Remodeling podcast. And if Gillman's can help you out, go support local family business. Have a great day.
Thank you.